Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Rogue Media. My name is Alex Schlerf, and today I'm going to be doing my review for the newest Marvel series, Marvel Zombies. This literally just came out today. I just finished it like an hour ago, so these are raw, fresh thoughts. I haven't really broken it down with anyone, so I'm just going to be kind of spitting stuff out here and exactly what I thought about the show. Obviously, this is coming from Marvel Animation. If you don't kind of know the background here, I'll provide some. It's an animated show, 4 episodes, really short. It's kind of like a long movie. And it is taking place after the What If episode from season one, where it's, I think, just called What If Zombies. And there's a big cliffhanger at the end where some of the people survive, but Thanos is a zombie and like is about to use the gauntlet. And then it takes place kind of right after that, although it skips around a little bit and takes its time to address that cliffhanger exactly. It now, we have a show that's flowing out the entire thing. And yeah, so I went into this show with not super high expectations because it is a really short animated show, and I'm kind of still reeling from how Eyes of Wakanda was pretty disappointing to me, which was a very similar thing, except this is like more of like a connected series, whereas Eyes of Wakanda was kind of short episodes that were anthology until the end where they kind of connected. But I think this show, I was forward to a little bit more than Eyes of Wakanda just because it feels like it would be more of like a true story and it would be like a big movie, whereas Eyes of Wakanda was like different little episodes. I didn't really enjoy the characters as much. Whereas the cast of characters that we knew we were getting for the show, I was excited for because you have characters like Blade and Kate Bishop is one of my favorite characters. So I was excited to see her. You got the poster right there. Miss Marvel, Yelena, like Shang-Chi, a lot of characters that we haven't seen a crazy amount of, not counting like Yelena, but like Shang-Chi, for example, is a new character this phase that we haven't seen too much of. So using the animated format to bring kind of these unlikely combos and brings me these characters in that they haven't had the time to bring back into live action yet. Shang-Chi's gonna be back in Doomsday, but you know what I mean. I think that's like can work for a really exciting thing, and it kind of got me a little excited for this, just at least to see the characters and see the cool concept. And yeah, I think this series was solid. I don't think it was anything groundbreaking, any groundbreaking storytelling or some like insane cinema, like didn't reach the levels of like an X-Men 97 or Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Well, definitely an X-Men 97, closer to Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. But I don't think it totally reached like those big heights, but I don't think it was ever going to because again, it is a limited series. It's very short. There isn't a lot of time for like this huge development. The episodes are like 30 to 35 minutes, so like there isn't much time to flesh things out, and that'll be kind of a part of my negatives. But yeah, I guess getting into the positives for a second. And by the way, I'm gonna do like a non-spoiler and spoiler section, but this will be a shorter episode because the show is shorter and I have less thoughts probably. And the spoiler section will probably be really short because there's probably not a lot I have to talk about besides from the fact that the show kind of does end in a cliffhanger, and that's not a spoiler for me saying that, but it does seem like they might be wanting to do more in this universe. But anyway, starting off with the positives, my main positive with this show is that, again, I did really like to see all these characters that are kind of unlikely duos to come together. And some characters that we've barely seen at all. I mean, we got Blade in the show. Again, that's not a spoiler. Like, he's in the promo. Blade is in the show, and this is literally the first time we are seeing MCU Blade. I know people are saying, like, well, there's no similarities there because it's just an animated show and Marvel doesn't really care about this. They're kind of dumping it away. And, like, that second part might be a little bit true because this has been in development for like 5 years and they just dumped it all in one day. But the director, he was either director of the show or is Brad Winderon, which is like the head of Marvel Television, said that when they were developing the show, they thought that Blade would have been released. The movie would have been released before the show comes out. So clearly, this, although it is a different version of Blade because he kind of has the Moon Knight aesthetic, they clearly intended for this Blade to be very similar to the MCU Blade because all the other characters in the show are very similar to the MCU counterparts, at least before they're zombies. And it was just cool seeing like Blade in the MCU. I know it's like not really technically, but and it's not even voiced by Mahershala, the voice actor who played him. The name's escaping me, but he replaced Mahershala on Invincible too, and he sounds exactly like Mahershala. Like if you didn't know, you totally think that was him, but it actually isn't him. But they did a great job with him because he's literally just an aura farmer, and that's exactly what you need at a Blade. That literally is what he is. Not a lot of huge depth there with him, and not a lot of his backstory, which is kind of going to be one of the negatives. We didn't get a lot of that kind of stuff with most of the characters, but it still was cool seeing him kind of in the cool action scenes. He didn't have a lot of like crazy dialogue scenes, aside from at the beginning when he was with Miss Marvel. But for the most part, it was cool seeing him kind of be in this world, kind of see maybe what our kind of first look at MCU Blade is, technically whatever you want to say. Still, I think this will be kind of similar to the way that Mahershala plays the character if that movie ever does come out or if he ever does play that character, which I think he will. So that was cool. Like I said, seeing some characters like Shang-Chi and Katie, Awkwafina's character from Shang-Chi, Red Guardian, Yelena, Miss Marvel was like the main character basically in this. She's in all the episodes. She is there kind of at the final battle and the kind of the final climax of the thing. Again, I won't spoil that, but she's there. And I have always loved Miss Marvel and Amon Vellani's portrayal of her, and she obviously returns to voice her in the show. So it was great seeing more of her and seeing her dynamic with the other characters. And obviously specifically, okay, I'll look at this in a positive way. The first 10 to 15 minutes of the first episode is the most we've gotten Champions Young Avengers tease in the MCU. And again, if you know me, I'm a huge Kate Bishop fan. I'm a huge Young Avengers fan. I'm waiting for that for so long. And although in the show, it didn't totally play out the way I wanted it to be with some of the characters related there. It was really cool seeing their dynamic on screen, for the first time because I have a feeling that with Winterbaum saying that about Blade, I have a feeling that he intended or he thought that that team would have formed and had a project or at least been together in a project before the show came out because it was clear like that dynamic between Riri, Kate, and Kamala was very solidified and was very just good. And it was good to see them bounce off each other. And I think one of the things I said, and I was thinking just kind of when that episode was going on, is that I always knew that the Kate and Kamala with Amon and Haley would be really good. I always knew they'd be able to bounce off each other in a fun way. And same kind of do agree with Cassie, who is not in this show. But I was really interested to see how Riri would mix with them, just based off watching Ironheart and Wakanda Forever. But she works really well alongside them, and like all these kind of hero groups need like a tech person, but she's not just that. She's not just there for exposition dumping. She does have a really clear bond with the other two of them, and I'm not sure what like the canon reason for them kind of forming is, or how long they've meant to have been together at this point. But like you can see, they're like best friends at this point. Like they have great chemistry together. They bounce off each other well. They're hilarious, like all of that. So yeah, it was cool to be able to see them on screen as someone who's a fan of those characters so much in the MCU and in the comics. So I'm really hoping that that dynamic being so good, and I have seen on Twitter so far the response to it's been really good. I'm hoping that kind of puts a fire in Marvel to say, you know what, people want this show. Let's greenlight that Champion show, which I still think is happening. I just don't think it'll be anytime soon. But there is a writer attached to it, so like it is happening. It's just a matter of when or if it's on pause or whatever. But yeah, just generally, it was cool to see those characters on screen. And like I said, Miss Marvel is a real standout in this show because, and by the way, like from your resident Kate Bishop fan, she had a pretty good characterization of the show. There are a couple problems I had with the way they handled her, and they're just spoilery, and especially with the kind of the the way that episode ends for her. I kind of had a little bit of a problem with, which maybe I'll talk about in spoilers, but I think it was a good characterization of Kate, and obviously Haley voices her. Dominique Thorne as Ironheart, always great to see her. And like I said, Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel is the true star slash standout of this Marvel Zombies show, and it was really enjoyable to see her play this character more and bounce off some of the other characters. She's got a couple great moments with specifically Red Guardian and Shang-Chi. I believe the Red Guardian one's in episode 3 and the Shang-Chi one's in episode 4. Remember, it's a 4 episode show, so 4 is the finale. Yeah, all of that was really fun to see them bounce off each other. A lot of my positives was kind of just going to be that this show was a fun time. Like it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't this huge event. It wasn't like X-Men 97 where it's like this crazy comic adaptation that is just so emotional and powerful. Like there were no huge emotional moments for you Marvel Zombies, and there was no point where I was like on the edge of my seat gripped, even at the end of the show. I mean, the ending is crazy, like the way they leave us, but there was no moment like that for me in Marvel Zombies. But just generally it was a fun time, and it isn't kind of in that Eyes of Wakanda category where I think it was wasted potential or just didn't really live up to what I wanted and I thought it was mid to bad. This is not mid to bad. This is a little over mid, I would say. This is like a solid. I don't really rate TV shows. It's just hard for me to do that. But I guess if I were to rate Marvel Zombies, I'd say like a 3.5 to a 4, like something like that. I have my MCU TV show ranking, and I'll probably get to that. Excuse me, at the end of this episode. But yeah, Miss Marvel was a big standout. Red Guardian was hilarious as always. Valkyrie was pretty good in the last couple episodes, and I think they did as good a job as they could, kind of explaining and following every corner of this universe because it's so hard with how many characters they have in the Marvel universe to have to kind of account for all of them in this show, especially in only 2 hours, a little over 2 hours of content. It's almost impossible to cover every corner of the world, but I think they did it in a pretty good way. I mean, I'm sure there's things that I'm not really remembering that they're leaving out, but there was a lot of like powerful characters they still addressed. Captain Marvel is in this. Wanda has a huge role in this. There's another kind of big cosmic character that I don't want to spoil because I don't know if it's in the promo or not, but there's some big cosmic entity to this, and there's an element of space and kind of a Guardians of the Galaxy tie-in. Like they do address a lot of the things they need to address with the show, which I did respect a lot because again, it is hard in that short amount of time to do that kind of thing. But yeah, that was all good. Them addressing all that stuff. I'm trying to think if there's any other kind of outstanding positives in terms of like characters. Um, Zemo was in this. He was hilarious. He was in it for a couple episodes. He was fun. Um, I don't know. I mean, no, that's part more negative. I won't say that. So yeah, let me get into some of the negatives right now. What I was about to say is that the animation, similar to What If, does kind of leave a little to be desired. It isn't like bad per se, but there's a lot of like big action sequences that go on, and it's kind of hard to follow, and the animation isn't too defined. This is something that most people probably wouldn't realize, but I am a big fan of animation. I'm not saying like I'm an expert, and they're doing way better than I could with animating anything, but comparing it to something like X-Men '97, for example, like the animation in that, and Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is, but compared that to like X-Men '97, which has to be the bar for Marvel animation until anything passes it, which I don't know if anything ever will, because I think it might be the best thing Marvel's ever done. But comparing it to that, which is kind of difficult, but still, the animation is on a lower tier, and it's clear the animation budget was a little lower. Maybe that budget was used on bringing all these voice actors back, because pretty much every voice actor in this is returning from their MCU roles. You have Amon Villani, David Harbour, Florence Pugh, uh, I think Wyatt Russell returned, like people like that. They're all back in this show. Tessa Thompson, Elizabeth Olsen, all these people are back in the show. Maybe that's where the budget went because I just don't think the animation was that solid, especially in that final sequence in the final episode. It kind of just like threw me off, where a lot of stuff is going on, and I was kind of getting lost in the sauce a little bit. So I don't think the direction was great, and also there's a lot of like slow-mo uses in this show, and it doesn't. I shouldn't say a lot. They use slow-mo at very like particular moments in the show, and it was very odd when they used it. Like I don't know what the decision of where to use slow-mo and when. It just kind of lost me a little bit. I don't know why they did it, but yeah, I think my main problem lies in two things. Number one, I wish they had told the story in a more linear way because, like I said, with how the Marvel, I rewatched that Marvel Zombies What If episode last week, and with how it ends and how the promo of the show was, how the promo for the show was, I kind of expected that they would start right after the ending, like right after the Marvel Zombies ending with Thanos with the stones as a zombie in Wakanda, and Spider-Man, Black Panther, and Scott Lang are all there. Like I very much expected that that would be where we pick up, and I don't think they even addressed that until episode three. So you're kind of like, okay, and then like I said earlier, with like how people are kind of coming to the story, I was kind of confused. Like again, how did these three of the champion slash young Avengers come together? How did like with this time jump, where did all these guys come together? And then there was like picking up from like after the Spider-Man thing happened and then bringing him back in the story. Like it just, I wish they just did it in a normal way. Like I wish they didn't have the first two episodes take place like after the whole thing happens and then bring us back to the Spider-Man thing and tie it together at the end. That might have worked for some people, but it kind of threw me off a little bit. I was a little confused at points. And again, going back and thinking about it, and this kind of ties into my next negative, but which I'll just say now, and again, it's a basic, boring answer because that's pretty much what everyone was saying with Eyes of Wakanda and now this. But this show was just too short. Like it was, the episodes were too short. The show in general is too short, and I would have really liked to get more backstory in some of these characters and how they survived the apocalypse and how they got to this certain point. We do for some of them, and we get like teases about it, but I would have really appreciated like getting the like a little bit of like the first three episodes being that Spider-Man thing, but also like what happened to Blade and how did he get the Moon Knight mantle and what happened to actual Oscar Isaac's character. How did the champions come together? Is Cassie Lang not alive? Did that recruiting happen earlier in this timeline? How did Elena and her family survive? Like there's a lot of things that I just wish we would have got more backstory for because I think Number one, it would have made the show more enjoyable because there's more depth to it. But number two, it would have been nice to like get us more of an emotional connection if we had more time to be invested in these characters. Because like you don't really get time to, I mean, listen, you do get moments that are really sweet, and there's moments of the show that are a little bit slower, especially to start off. But like I feel like you don't get enough time to really get invested in these characters and really take in what's happening before in episode like two, three, and four, people were just dying. You're like, oh well, I guess they're dead. Like I guess it's so much for that. And there's some like emotional beats. I think the end of episode two and episode three, there was kind of a big emotional beat, and that was kind of a sad moment, and you get a little bit of time to breathe with that. But with the format, they just don't give you a lot of time to breathe and kind of feel these emotional moments. And I think obviously that comes into play with how much budget there was for the show. You know, this wasn't an X-Men 97 or a Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man where was that one called Freshman Year? I think it's Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. They changed the name like a million times, but you don't really get that time that you got from those two shows compared to this because this is kind of a limited, not anthology like Eyes of Wakanda, but it's a limited series. And they literally said that it would have been a movie if the Spider-Man rights didn't prevent them from being a movie. Which, by the way, that's another negative. Spider-Man was like all over the promo, and again, they literally said the reason this was not a movie was because they wanted to put Spider-Man in it, and he's barely in it. Like he has a couple moments in the in episode three and four, and there's a sweet moment with him and Miss Marvel and her kind of fangirling over him, and there's that cool moment you saw in the trailer with him ripping the heads off. But like that's literally it. Like pretty much what you see in the trailer, especially from his action scenes, is what you get. Like there's a little bit of a monologue from him relating to him and Scott Lang and Black Panther, but and like that's good, but again, I mean, if you're literally the reason you didn't make this a full-length movie was because of Spider-Man, then I wanted to see more Spider-Man. Like I just think that's kind of ridiculous. And that's not only because he was one of my favorite characters, it's just that's kind of the way they promoted the show. So maybe that's my fault for being disappointed, but still I was disappointed in that. And yeah, so I just think that if we had had more time, and again, I do hope we get more in this because I don't think like a season two would prevent the issues of the first one because my problem was with like backstory things. But I would be glad to see more of the world in a season two and see how they kind of address that cliffhanger. And I think the reactions have been good. I think it's got like an 80% Rotten Tomatoes, and most people are kind of around the range of me, like a 3.5 to a 4 star out of five. So I do think we will get a season two for this show or a, kind of a continuation in whatever way that is. So that's exciting. But I do think that this wasn't really like wasted potential because I think this kind of lived up to as good as it could be with the 4 episode format. But again, I left throughout the kind of series. I was sitting there and I was like, I wish we got more backstory in this, and I wish we got more in this and this and this. So those are kind of my two main concerns. Is literally just I wish it was longer and I wish we got more backstory. Even if we didn't get a longer series, I think they could have done a better job of doing exposition, explaining kind of the world and the universe a little bit better. And the reason I'm not going into specific examples, besides from the couple ones I said earlier, is because some of them are spoilery, and maybe I'll talk about them in a second when we get to spoilers. But yeah, that's my one concern. Then again, I wish we would have told it in a more linear way because I did kind of get lost a couple times in there. And I promise I was paying attention. Like I wasn't on my phone or anything. Like I was paying attention and I was watching with a friend. And both of us were kind of like confused on some certain timeline things. And yeah, besides from that, like a couple decisions made by some characters in their final moments that I thought were kind of silly. And you probably know if you've seen the show what I'm talking about. And I'll get to it in spoilers. But yeah, before I get to spoilers, again, if you've not seen Marvel Zombies yet, if you're a Marvel fan or you're a fan of any of the characters you've seen in the promo, go watch the show because it is a really fun time and there are some really fun moments from it. The TVMA format is good. I forgot to mention Namor. Namor is good as well. Kind of zombie Namor is a fun character that shows up in a couple episodes. But yeah, so again, there's good character team ups. It's a fun time. There's a lot of good in it, but there's also just kind of a ceiling of where it can reach because of that format and because for me, I didn't enjoy the way they kind of played out the story and I mean laid out the story, I mean. So yeah, that's Marvel Zombies. Non-spoilers. If you've not seen Marvel Zombies, click away now because I'm going to go into spoilers in three, two, one. Okay, so it's quick spoiler section, not very long. First off, Marvel, why do you hate Kate Bishop fans? Why do you hate Kate Bishop fans? Like you've got to be kidding me, dude. I literally knew, you know what? Like I'm such a pessimist these days where like they were showing her in the promo and it was like all only in one space and I was like, bro, like they're gonna kill her off, don't they? And not only did they kill her off, 10 minutes in she gets like eviscerated, like she probably isn't even coming back as a zombie. They literally destroyed her. Like it's hard out here, man. Like being a fan of an obscure character like that, even when it's played like a top tier actor, it's just some people have to die in the show. Pretty much every character dies, but that was just like hilariously disappointing because maybe things change. We got a lot of stuff from leakers in the lead up to this that there'd be like a good Yelena Kate dynamic. They don't even interact on screen. But again, it was nice to see her interact with the Young Avengers. But like I wanted more. Like I wanted more of them. I left, and that's probably was the goal, was wanting you to demand more and wanting a Champions Young Avengers show. But that sucks because I love the dynamic between the three of them, and it was cool. We got to see them at the end. So I guess that's the next spoiler thing I need to talk about is the ending. Is that they left this in a huge cliffhanger. And obviously, in the climax, Miss Marvel decides to kind of team with Wanda Maximoff, who, in a very similar way to Westview and House of M, for those of you who know the comics, the House of M comic, in a very Wanda Maximoff move, she kind of rewrites reality, not necessarily in her image, but in a way that is kind of a illusion and is kind of just putting away the trauma of the situation. Because at the end, we get this kind of perfect world where Miss Marvel wakes up in her parents' house and her friends are at the door, Kate and Riri, and that kind of made me feel a little bit vindicated. I'm like, all right, we get to see a little bit more of the dynamic at the end, and it also looks like Riri is alive, actually. They kind of left her ending a little, obviously Kate literally gets blown up or whatever, destroyed by Captain Marvel, but they left Riri's ending a little bit up in the air, and it looks like she is alive based on the ending, and that's a crazy cliffhanger, and I really like how they left it off. I mean, it makes the series feel a little bit incomplete without like the promise of a season two. So if season two doesn't happen, that'll probably dock it a little bit. But assuming that season two does happen, I'd love to see them play out this cliffhanger and see if that kind of reality will break down immediately. And we'll see Miss Marvel and Riri kind of trying to somehow get to Wanda and stop this kind of illusion. And maybe Vision will come in because Vision wasn't in the show at all, but I think he's still he took the Sona actually, so he's probably dead. But there's always a chance that he rebooted himself on another network or something. But see if that happens with Riri and Kamala, or if she kind of just sticks in this world a little bit, like kind of like Wanda in Westview, like just this world is happy. I have my friends here, I have my family here. There's no zombie apocalypse. Maybe I just stick here. I don't think she's gonna do that. I can't really tell based on the ending. You can't really see what her thoughts are, besides in right at the end where she kind of is shocked by seeing the zombie kind of thing come in and the illusion fade. So I think probably what she'll do is kind of fight against this reality, but I'm very curious to see where it goes and where they go with that and see how they take that cliffhanger if there is a season two. And like I said, I have my concerns with the show. I don't think it's perfect, but I still would love to see a season two and how they continue this, or whether maybe they do a full length movie. I think Spider-Man's still alive, so that maybe that's still a concern because like they literally cut off right as his head was being eaten. So I think that was intentional, obviously, and I want to see more of that Miss Marvel Spider-Man dynamic for sure. So yeah, that ending was really cool, and I respect them for ending it like that and kind of leaving it open for an ending. I got Blade is dead too, which kind of sucks. He had the Kate Bishop treatment as well. Poor Blade fans, which I'm kind of consider myself as one a Blade fan as well. So it's hard out here for all my characters apparently. But yeah, love the ending. Is there any other spoilery things I need to talk about relating to what happened in the episode? I really want to talk about is that beginning with Kate and then the ending with Miss Marvel. So yeah, I'm very curious to see where they would take that. If Miss Marvel decides to live in that reality for a little bit or kind of breaks out of it, and seeing how, if they even can, defeat Wanda or kind of take down her illusion. But that's a very Wanda ending, and I liked how they kind of played on that. And I liked her scene in episode three where she kind of breaks the illusion at New Asgard, and I liked kind of seeing that and how all chaos breaks out, and that was cool too. And again, that's a very Wanda moment. So there are a lot of characters in the show that got really right. By the way, what I was talking about earlier about Case characterization, it is good for the most part, but I literally hate the idea that she would shoot an arrow, whether it's a trick arrow, whatever the heck it is. The fact that she would shoot a trick arrow at Captain Marvel, facing her own death and expect it to work. Like that could have been the greatest trick arrow of our time. She's not an idiot. She knows who Captain Marvel is. Everyone knows who Captain Marvel is who's on Earth. Like even if she didn't know, even if let's just assume in this scenario that she didn't know Captain Marvel in this kind of branched universe, there's no reason that she would have shot that arrow at her with her coming down on her. Like that never would have happened. There's no chance you can convince me that Kate would have ever done that. She's not an idiot. Like I just think that was kind of a big like slap in the face from Marvel. I didn't really appreciate that. But everything else with her and the Riri and Kamala was all good. But yeah, that was just the one thing I had a concern about. But yeah, besides from that, I guess I can get into my ranking for MCU TV shows. So I currently have I guess there's 20, at least that I've seen, 20 MCU TV shows. I don't have I Am Groot on here because it's like it's just not, it can't compare to anything else. But um yeah, 20 MCU TV shows. I have Marvel Zombies at 14th, which seems low, but pretty much everything around this range is like solid to good. So that doesn't mean it's bad. I guess I'll just go through my list right now. So I'll go from bottom to top. We have I'm not going to go and analyze these, by the way. I've talked to them before, but number 20 is Secret Invasion. Number 19 is What If Season 3. Number 18 is Echo. Number 17 is What If Season 2. Number 16 is Eyes of Wakanda. Number 15 is Ironheart. Number 14 is Marvel Zombies. Number 13 is What If Season 1. Number 12 is She-Hulk. Number 11 is Falcon Winter Soldier. Number 10 is Miss Marvel. Number 9 is Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Season 1. Number 8 is Agatha All Along. Number 7 is Moon Knight. Number 6 is Daredevil Born Again Season 1. Number 5 is WandaVision. Number 4 is Hawkeye. Number 3 is Loki Season 1. Number 2 is Loki Season 2. And number 1 is X-Men 97 Season 1. So yeah, Marvel Zombies at 14th. And I know that's a low ranking, but like it's closer to What If Season 1, She-Hulk, Falcon Winter Soldier than it is to Ironheart and Eyes of Wakanda. Like those ones down there are ones that I genuinely just didn't enjoy or either thought. I don't even think I thought there was mid. Like all those shows, I did an Ironheart review by the way. So if you want to check out that review, check it out before you like go in the comments and then and trash me for it. But yeah, Marvel Zombies was solid. Again, it's just not anything groundbreaking for me to put it any over any of those like other live action shows. And I think What If Season 1 has enough really good episodes to be better than Marvel Zombies just by a little bit. I think this show was better than the Marvel Zombies episode, like by a considerable amount, just because that one was like a 25-minute episode, was so rushed. I rewatched it again recently, it was not great. But I still think that What If Season 1 overall is better than Marvel Zombies. So yeah, it doesn't reach the levels, Marvel Zombies doesn't reach the levels of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, X-Men 97, but it does fit in that category of like What If Season 1 and some of the better episodes in that are comparable to the better episodes in this. And maybe on another day I would put Marvel Zombies over What If Season 1 or like She-Hulk maybe. Well, Falcon Winter Soldier, I'm keeping that there. It's not going over that. But yeah. So yeah, Marvel Zombies was a very enjoyable show and I'd recommend I recommend everyone to watch it. I mean, if you're a K-Bishop fan, just fair warning. I should have said that in the non-spoiler section. But yeah, fun show. Everyone go watch it. Thanks so much for watching this review. I will have another video out tomorrow with my Alien Earth review, which just ended, which is another interesting show, and I have a lot of thoughts about it. And yeah, leave in the comments if you've seen Marvel Zombies and your thoughts. I've been tweeting about it on Twitter too. That'll be in the description as well. And yeah, I think our next Marvel project after this is Wonder Man. Yeah, I think that's the only other MCU project for us. Yeah, Vision is next year. Yeah, I think Wonder Man is the next show. I think it's supposed to be out in December. Some people have said that it might move up to November or October. So we'll see about that. But that's the next Marvel project until we get into kind of the big 2026 year. And yeah, I just wrote an article by the way about Doomsday Wrapping. So if you want to hear more about that and my thoughts on that, check out the website again in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Go watch Marvel Zombies for a fun time, and I will see you next time.